So in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I tripled someone's business by focusing on just a few key principles to optimize their sales process, right? Now, to give you a rough overview, before I actually even started working in this company, they didn't have any tracking, right? So if we go to the screen, I created this little dashboard to give you an overview of what it was like beforehand. They were spending roughly 6K on ads every single month. Their AOV is 3K, right? They were getting roughly 400 leads, 10% booking rate, 60% show rate, 85% offer rate, and a 15% close rate. So overall, they were getting roughly 9K a month in revenue, 3 deals a month, getting only a 1.5x ROAS, leaving them with about 110K in annual revenue, with a CPPC, cost per book call 150, and a cost per deal of basically 2K, right? Which was obviously not the best, and over a long-term scale, that's not gonna be scalable, right? Because obviously you have marketing expenses, but not even that, you have fulfillment, employees, staff, commission, all of that. However, after working with me, they were able to triple their business. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we did that. 4 things that we looked at. Number 1 was their tracking. Number 2 was the setter script. Number 3 was the consultation flow. And number 4 was the trust mechanics. Now, number 1, we started tracking everything. If you do not track properly, you do not know what needs fixing. Right? Because if you don't have the right tracking, you're pretty much just going off a gut feeling instead of raw data. Now, of course, in some cases that can work. But overall, it's crucial to have a specific diagnosis, certain KPIs that you need to attend to, certain standards, so you can see, right? So you can see exactly what needs to be improved. Now with this company, we track their dials made, their sets, the offers made, the cash collection rate, the pickups, canceled appointments, closes, objections, like the number of different objections that they would get. And this is just the bare minimum, the absolute minimum. Just if you focus on, let's say, the dials and the setting, you can obviously do dials made, but then from there you can even go pickups. Then you can go pickup to conversation. Then you go from conversation to set. And then you could even go much deeper. This is just the bare minimum when it comes down to actually having the proper tracking. Because like I said, if you do not know where your numbers are and you don't have the right tracking, you're just going on a whim, pretty much guessing what to focus on, and it's not a reliable way to scale properly. That's first and foremost, and this is just the bare minimum. Second thing that we looked at is the setter script, right? How they should run the setting call, right, between 7 to 10 to 12 minutes long, because beforehand they would just go into straight pitching. Okay, how good they are, how amazing they are, all of the things they've accomplished, all of the clients have helped, and as a result of that, not a lot of people would actually book the appointment. Let me think about it, send me more info, listen, I'm not sure my availability, give me a day, I'll get back to you, right? Obviously, as you know, those are just smoke screens. Smoke screens come from a lack of trust. Now the reason for that is because the prospects, the leads, did not believe that the specific product could actually help them specifically. Because imagine you were to go into a doctor's office, as an example, and you really hurt your arm, right? You've had a skateboarding accident, whatever, you go into the doctor's office, as soon as you walk in, the doctor goes, listen, this is what you need, this is what we're gonna do, and it should take you roughly 3 weeks to recover. Without even asking you any questions whatsoever. You'd probably be thinking, listen, doc, I know you're an expert, but you haven't even asked me any questions. You haven't even asked me how I even fucking injured my arm, right? There's no context. Okay, what a doctor does is they ask you questions. How did you hurt your arm? How recent? Was it an hour ago? Was it a few days ago? What symptoms have you been feeling? Have you been feeling dizzy? Has the pain gotten worse? Has it gotten better? Can you move your fingers in a certain way? Then from there, they will be able to diagnose the proper procedure to actually conduct. And you want to do the same thing in the setting script, which is what I told them to do, right? Specifically, this was a mattress company, but this can work across any kind of business. And I've heard several digital businesses, online businesses, in-person businesses, services, high-ticket products, whatever it is. But with this specific example, it's, well, what actually made you reach out in the first place? How old is your mattress? What's the main reason they're actually looking for a new mattress? Is it a case where you just want a comfier mattress, or is it a case where you're having sleep issues? These are just 4 simple examples, right? But you get the point. You want to be genuinely curious about the person's situation, right? You want to actively listen, and you want to ask questions based on their answers. You want to basically use the art of probing. You want to have a full idea and picture of their situation. The reason this is important is because not only is it going to build trust, because you're actually learning their situation, and as a prospect, as a lead, they feel like they're being listened. They feel like they feel like you're trying to understand them. That's the first thing. The second thing as to why this is beneficial, and it also increased the actual booking rate of all the leads that they got, is because you can customize and tailor the appointment to their needs. Because if someone is looking to, let's say, save money in the long term, right? To where in this specific example, instead of buying a cheap mattress every couple years, they want to buy one quality mattress to save the money across 10 years. If that's someone's goal versus someone that has back pain or neck pain, you're going to sell the appointment in a very different way. Right? Because even though people will buy the same service and the same product, they have different reasons as to why they do so. You see how important that is? Right? So instead of generically setting the appointment, you want to make it tailored and personalized, which is why asking the right questions and just being genuinely curious, because it doesn't even matter what questions you ask. If you have the intention that you're genuinely curious, you want to understand their situation fully, the questions will come to you naturally. Then from there, it's going into what the actual consultation looks like. Right now, I could honestly make 100 different videos in 100 different points, and they're all an hour long, about how to run a sales appointment. Okay, but just to give you 3 that we focus on that made a huge difference, these are pretty much, to my mind, the most important ones. First of all is pain. You want to find pain. Pain and angles, like a sales angle is basically the same thing, but if there's no sale, there's no pain. If there's no problem, there's no sale. Okay? So with this specific example, as an example, it could be the pain of price, because for the last 10 years they've been buying cheap mattresses, so they have to buy a new one every couple of years, as an example, and they don't want to keep spending that much money. Another example could be physical pain. Back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, lack of sleep, feeling tired throughout the day, throughout their work, throughout the time with their family because of their, lack of sleep or low quality sleep. It could be the pain or the fear of future pain, because if someone's been dealing with a certain type of back pain for, let's say, 5-10 years, you can future pace them. Or what would it look like, in the next 5 to 10 years, if you stay with the same mattress and you didn't actually get this issue resolved. You get the point. The point is, find some fucking pain, right? Step 2 is you want to get as much data as possible, okay? Like I said, with the setting flow, when you're able to get a lot of context on their situation, you can basically tailor the appointment. You can tailor the sell on the appointment. This is the same thing, but with the actual product. So in this specific example, it's like, what kind of mattress do you have? Is it a soft mattress? Is it a firm mattress? How old is it, right? How long has the pain been there? Are you a side, a back, a front sleeper? Basically just getting as much data on their situation as possible. One of the best reasons to do this is because you're able to tailor your pitch, like I said, but more importantly, you will be perceived as more of an expert by doing so, because then you can specifically diagnose why they are dealing with their current pain, and then how your solution is going to be different and is actually going to solve it. And again, it can be price, physical pain, whatever service you're selling. Even if this is a B2B sale, you can still use these principles. And the third thing is, after you've gone through your whole sales process, you've given them the price, you've basically given them all the information, is whatever they say, whatever objection they give you, you need to isolate it. Albert Einstein once said a quote which was, if I was given 1 hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes understanding the problem and then 5 minutes actually figuring out the solution. Now, the way you can use that in a sales context is when someone's giving you excuses, objections, reasons not to buy, it's very difficult if there's multiple things up in the air, right? Or if things are very vague. Your job is to find the one specific thing that is stopping them from making a buying decision right now. That's pretty much what a good chunk of objection handling is. Because once you know what that one single thing is, it's way easier to overcome it, to handle it, to find a solution to it, rather than trying to deal with 5 vague things. That's the first thing. So your main goal after that should be to isolate the objection or the excuse or the reasons as to why they cannot buy right now to one single reason. And the fourth thing is understanding how to build trust between the time that someone gets booked in and when they show up to the actual appointment. Now, if you do the setting call properly, like I said, you should already have a good amount of context on their situation. Using that context, you can send personalized and tailored, sales assets, resources, educational videos, articles, basically sending them custom and tailored information that's solving their specific problem. Right? Now, if someone did that to you, like if you spoke to someone for 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you gave them a good amount of context on your situation, right? You booked in the appointment and then they basically sent you useful information on how to actually solve that issue, you'd find that very valuable. You'd see them as an expert. Now, not only is that going to actually create trust and build more trust, right? Which will then lead to a higher show rate of people showing up to the appointments, but more importantly, it's going to increase the overall close rate of the conversations on the consultations and appointments that you have. Because you're front loading a lot of that trust building beforehand. Right? And I already gave you a couple of examples, but custom articles, social proof, educational videos, whatever useful piece of information that you can find, it's gonna help a lot. Now, I already gave you the beforehand, right? But I've got a little diagram to basically show you what happens after. So like I said, 6,000 ad spend, they're getting 400 leads, 360 weren't even getting bookings, 16 no-shows, 17 didn't buy, they were stuck at 9K revenue with a 1.5x ROAS. After implementing those specific tweaks, they were able to get up to $29,000 in revenue, right? Now, the way that actually happened is I helped them increase the booking rate from 10% to 15%. So instead of 40 appointments, they had 60 appointments. I increased the show rate from 60% to 80%, right? The offer rate from 85% to 90%, but also the close rate from 15% to 22%. Now, those are not incredibly massive jumps, right? These are not out of the ordinary results, statistics, KPIs. I'd say these are fairly standard. But as you can see, when you implement the right, let's say, strategies and principles across the sales process, it delivers an incredible result. Just like I said, they're at roughly 30K in revenue from 9K, so tripling the business, but more importantly, 4.7x ROAS, which is way more scalable than a 1.5 to where you're barely breaking even. And across a year, across a 12-month period, the difference is a $231,000 gap. Same ad spend, same leads, but just a much more efficient and very realistic sales process. If you want similar results as the company that I just showed you, to where they were spending the same amount of money, getting the same amount of leads, but were able to triple their business, which, like you saw with a few subtle and different tweaks to their overall sales process, book a call with me down below. The link is down there. On the call, I'll go over your business, learn more about it, see where you're basically just leaving easy money on the table, and then we can see if it would make sense to work with each other. Speak soon.